So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, actually good morning still, for this session. Thank you, Mr. Godrej, thank you, Mukundan, for joining us. We're here with two stalwarts of the industry who have created the pillars of what we stand on today. They don't need an introduction, but I'll still do a short one. Mr. Nadir Godrej, as we know, is the chairman and managing director of Godrej Industries, and he holds an MSc in chemical engineering from Stanford and an MBA from Harvard. Mr. Mukundan is the managing director and CEO of Tata Chemicals, and he joined TAS directly after finishing his education in IIT Roorkee and Harvard as well. So to get us started, and thank you for making this time, maybe the first question to you, Mr. Godrej, just a bit around your story and journey, your personal story and journey, and some moments of truth that you've experienced as you have gone through.
One crisis had a great impact on me. I will read what I wrote in the 1990s. Many lessons can be learned. The lessons we learned, if I look back, were best when we went off track. And so I'll tell an ancient story, a tale of trouble, but some glory. I had no idea what was in store. 1 year, our loss was 80 crore. We wondered why we had invested in something strange and so untested as making olefins from oil. It hardly seemed worth all that toil. I should mention that was vegetable oil. But alcohol was an intermediate, not ethyl, which gives an immediate kick to all those who imbibe it. And for this audience, I describe it as from C12 to C18. And now this change in tack would mean a change in all our strategy. To lead this change was up to me. I did not do it all alone. My team was good, as is well known. The group was there with all its strengths. To help us out, they went great lengths. A merger helped to save our skin. You must survive before you win. We lived to fight another day. Step by step, we found the way. We had to work to make things right. On every front, we had to fight. Now we had suffered for our sins, but since we stopped the olefins, we had 2 columns that were idle. Not using them was suicidal. Configuring them for fractionation, we used them for the preparation of much desired single cuts. And when we settle into ruts, such innovation gets us out. And I have not the slightest doubt our engineers helped save the day, the continuous improvement way. With the help of all of them, we started off with TQM. We learned a lot of useful stuff. But all of that was not enough. We learned to stretch capacity with bellicose rapacity. We focused on the bottlenecks with grips that could well throttle necks. And month by month, the throughput rose with just an occasional dose of investment in a plant that's new. We kept the number to just a few. We built new plants for fractionation, restarted with our sulfonation. By then, we made no olefin, and so we chose to bring it in, of course, made petrochemically by Chevron, Shell, or BP. The base we told for HLL, the rest to others we could sell. Now HLL served as the bread, the rest was a nutritious spread. Our hydrogen was good and cheap. The benefit we could then reap by using all that we could spare to make some stearic acid there. With Dr. Pandit's help we tried and made a plant that is our pride. At a low cost we then supplied good alcohol sans aldehyde. Others know how fees were high. We did not pay a single pie. The cost of Indian plants is low, and this enables us to grow. In order to increase our trade, we quite specifically made C1618 cuts from palm. But this had some attendant harm. For every time the feed was changed, the product streams were exchanged. We had more fractionation cost and more material was lost. Our engineers then were the ones who cut the cost with longer runs. From time to time, our plants were down, and this would cause us all to frown. Now, TPM was a solution. For us, it was a revolution. The plants were up more and more. The costs were going to the floor. Everywhere the throughput rose, and we had a healthy dose of cutting costs everywhere. With energy, we took great care. Whatever saving was suggested, we evaluated and invested. From everyone, we always sought good learnings, but the one who taught us best was Kokyo's Mr. Kawai, who's always pushing us to try to make our products somewhat better. And then one day we got a letter complaining we were not consistent, although we were quite insistent that we had exceeded norms. He urged us to make reforms. We had exceeded by too much, and we learned there is such a thing as being far too good. Without him, we never would have known that consistency is better than proficiency. A constant 98.2 is fine and better than a stray 99. So nothing will help better than a good customer from Japan to keep you always on your toes and teach you everything he knows. And if you have enough endurance, you will have the assurance your quality is of the best for having passed this greatest test. With our experience in soaps, we had always learned the ropes of processing most distillates available at attractive rates. Competitors used processed oil. Our R&D with skill and toil, although the task was rather tough, found ways to use the cheaper stuff. All of this was very fine and added to the bottom line. The catalyst was optimized, the throughput was maximized, and per ton costs were minimized. The profits were then supersized. Production wasn't the only story. Now marketing brought us some glory. Flake longer chains were our forte. We found new markets for a sortie. In China, we could sell a lot. We liked the margins that we got. In Argentina and Brazil, our coffers we could slowly fill. We listened first, and then we played. Each time we made a different grade. Our annual customer survey enables us to whelp away to customers' recording needs. We know that listening succeeds. And we continue still to cruise along. Our engineers have made us strong. We now sell to 6 continents, though as of now there aren't any indents. From the 7th, penguins, it seems, have no need, even in their dreams, for our alcohol. 6 will suffice, though 7 would be rather nice. I think by now we can exude much confidence, and to conclude, I think we can safely state that India now will surely rate as a good base to produce all chemicals, and that's good news. In India, you can surely earn, but these lessons one should learn. Your market should be everywhere. You must ensure that you take care that all your plants are global scale. Niche markets can help you prevail. Good service is a perfect treat. It always helps you to compete. Since others have done it before, push on, for you can be quite sure that you'll succeed. Have no fears. Employ the best of engineers, for they will help you optimize, and then you'll surely win the prize. Thank you. Thank you very much.
That was amazing, Mr. Godrej. Thank you so much. On popular demand, everyone had expected a poem from you, and as always, you didn't disappoint. It was really lovely to hear the journey. I think moving over to you, Mukund, a bit, would love to hear your story as you took Tata Chemicals global and the experience that you had as you did that, and any moments of truth in that journey.
So after that poem, you said everything what we should do. So I think we should maybe move on to the next question. So I really think our journey was very different in the sense that we had expertise only in one section of the chemical industry, inorganic chemicals, and we really were not taking India to the world. We were taking world to the world in the sense that every one of our operation is very much unitary operation, running on its own and having its own market. And I think what we've done is to take Indian practices or learn from them. These are all well-run companies, so really create an area of expertise operations around the world. That's what we've done. So the underlying thesis for us always has been that in the cost curve, where does a unit lie? If in the cost curve, in a global demand supply, if it is on a lower end of the point, I think we are happy to do the investment and scale and run it. Of course, we hit a huge bottleneck because the quarter after we acquired came 2008 crisis. The global demand plummeted and we went through terrible times. In fact, that quarter we made a loss, I think, the last quarter of 2008. But I think we sort of worked on cost. I mean, as any challenge would do, it sort of pushes you to sort of look beyond the current problem and look at all opportunities and look at every piece of cost. The second thing I think we've done in the last few years is to sort of focus our company. We were all over the place. So we had a consumer business, which we have sort of exited completely, and we have focused on chemical business 100% because that we think is the heart of the company. And then the second thing we've done is also to exit businesses where there is subsidy coming from someplace. We don't like subsidies, and we don't want to be in business of subsidies. Business has to stand on its own feet. And not that the business was doing badly. I think it is a profitable business. Fertilizer certainly is profitable business. We heard from the last speaker, Debashish, about coal to fertilizer, which they are building. I think these are all good ideas. India has a huge demand, but our view was that we needed to build business on its own strength. So we do have the exposure to agriculture through AgChem, as well as we have the phosphoric acid plant in Morocco, which still continues. But there's no element of subsidy involved. So that's been our approach. And looking ahead, I think India is a great opportunity. But I think as the last session we were hearing, the fulcrum of that change has got to be between two broad trends. And these will continue for a long time. I think one trend is about complete decarbonization. We have to live without carbon coming from synthetic sources. How we will do, I think that will go through its own process. It may be a 20, 30, 40-year process, but industry will shift. The second element, of course, is very interesting and impressive case studies by on AI data. I think many of us don't even know what AI can do. I think but it got a good push by the ChatGPT, what it could do to NLP and but I think there's a lot of use cases there in terms of starting from design of a process to how you serve the customer and how you run your operations efficiently. So all in all, I think we are sitting at this moment, as far as India is concerned, at the intersection of the most exciting times for this industry. Because this industry is now going to produce more champions who will be new, who will not be the ones who are. I mean, I would love to see everybody in this room become big, but unfortunately the nature of change is that a lot of the champions in future will be who are not in the room, and they are likely to be companies which have different way of thinking, how to use technology in terms of deep tech, at the same time, how confidently and assured manner they switch towards sustainability. Of course, there's going to be again opportunity of India Plus. India will be part of that countries which will play a role in the supply chain. There'll be a lot of issues. I think we need to figure out which part do we play. We need to be selective. But end of the day, I think there's going to be huge opportunities.
Thank you. Thank you. I think you touched on many things in that piece, and I'll maybe pick one for conversation with you, Mr. Godrej, right? On sustainability, and I think a lot of discussion was had yesterday on sustainability and defensive move versus offensive moves, which is more decarbonization versus really going out and doing product innovation to change the world or serve the energy transition. What are your reflections for the industry in terms of sustainability and new products?
Yeah. I'll first talk about sustainability and then about new products. All industries should play a role in the carbon neutral goal. GHG emissions should be reduced, more green energy should be produced. And so without a partiality, our goal for all is neutrality, whether water, carbon or solid waste. And very soon we will make haste to make our net emissions zero. Will that make the group a hero? In 2010, the goal looked tall, but we took a reasoned call. Technology would save the day. So far, it has turned out that way. To achieve these goals, we will strive to do it all by 2025. As technology takes the leap, green energy gets very cheap. Keen observers quickly saw that solar also tracks Moore's law. Whether groundnut shell or bagasse, India's full of biomass. And bamboo is now on the way. a major role it can play. At first we thought we'd have to spend, but that's not true. For in the end, the more we thought and the more we slaved, we did invest, but we also saved. And solar is still getting cheaper, and as we start digging deeper in India, it will hit the goal of being cheaper than even coal in just a handful of years. Already we and our peers are sourcing solar electricity at lower rates than from the utility. For quite some time we've been extorted as their finances aren't still sorted. A silver lining can be seen since it incentivizes green. There are many paths that we can see for achieving carbon neutrality, but the cheapest way is certainly through energy efficiency. Real interest rates are rather low and high returns quickly flow for any energy-saving device. For business, this is very nice. Not only are returns quite brisk, there's also very little risk. In India, mandated CSR can help us go very far. Multiple benefits is what one sees with water projects or growing trees. Good livelihoods are created. Our carbon emissions are abated. Trees planted at a river source maintain the flow throughout its course. So many benefits we can see. The preservation of biodiversity, different species can be tried, useful products can be supplied like biomass or edible fruits, and yet the trunk and the roots can sequester carbon, clean the air, a win-win that is very fair. So while we decarbonize, why not also monetize? So never fall for either or. Our hearts and minds demand much more. Neutrality can come with ease. Some may think that I'm a tease. Some companies are not yet sold. For some it's tough, or so I'm told. Energy-intensive firms would say, it's tougher then for them to play. If you can turn all waste to gold, and if you can be very bold with inventing technology, any industry can see eventual neutrality. And there is so much more to gain if it's across our entire chain. Knowledge transfer can be done. Sustainability can then be won throughout the supply chain. This would be a major gain. Many benefits can be seen if raw materials are also green. There's a cost, but also a gain as our customers want to sustain. I'll just add a little bit about the raw materials. And we heard about coal today. And I think biological raw materials, we have all used them. We've used wood, we've used sugar, we've used vegetable oil, as I do in my business. And we have used waste biomass like bagasse or oil palm waste or crop residues. But it's possible to grow bamboo at a very low cost, making it a potential raw material as well as fuel. And since you're getting useful products, it's probably the cheapest offset in India today is growing trees or bamboo. And if you grow trees like the oil palm, which I think is a great carbon offset, or there's a startup called Terviva that has made currant seeds into edible protein and edible oil by special tech. So you can grow food from trees. If you convert all fields producing food to trees, India's carbon emissions problem could well be solved. But we shouldn't neglect using fossil fuel mines to sequester carbon. The Japanese are producing blue hydrogen in Australia by putting the byproduct carbon dioxide into the same mine. Enhanced oil recovery causes carbon dioxide to go into the oil field. But people have found that by adding much more carbon dioxide, you can get a little bit more oil. But the point is, it's a fairly cheap way of sequestering carbon.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you again for a lovely poem. It's amazing how you have so many of them. Any reflections, Logan, from you on the offensive versus defensive moves?
So I'm just going to say, you know, you look at the art of the possible, not the art of probable or what is. And there is so much to learn. Fundamentally, when you look at one simple use of resource, which is the ag sector, let's start with them and saying that, listen, what are the things, chemicals it is consuming? And you look at what has been achieved by a country like Netherlands, country like Israel. Netherlands today is the second largest exporter of food products. Israel actually is one of the largest exporters of fruits and vegetables. With desert land about size of Meghalaya. It's not big. You look at Meghalaya, it probably is the same size, but they're amongst the largest exporters. In winter, they do it. And what they've done is with very limited availability of water. And the process they've done it is very low consumption of fertilizer, pesticides. And it is today integrating exactly the session, what we saw in the last session. I think we got to say the whole process of agriculture is now computer enabled. It is digital and data driven. When you give water, when you give fertigation, when you give, the whole process is controlled, in controlled environment in a desert. And obviously we are much more blessed than that. And we can be a food factory of the world for the same amount of inputs we are taking. So I think really we need to reimagine every sector ground up. If we start to say that let me do something in my chemical space, I'll only do what I know, what is possible. But if there is a cross-industry view, and even the
more resilient.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, maybe a different question for you, because I know you'll be called off stage soon, but you have been through the journey and you described you've looked at expanding your portfolio, trimming it down. So you've explored the journey of commodity chemicals and specialty chemicals and made money in both and then made choices on those. So one of the conversations that I constantly hear in the industry is I should be moved towards more specialty to make more money. But that's not always true, right? So any thoughts on the commodity versus specialty play?
So I think there are two issues, Avinash. I think we should leave whether you're working for, let's say, cash flow or you're working for, let's say, value. Certainly, the market values specialty chemicals more. I mean, if you look at the P multiples, you'll get better P multiples. So if you're chasing, value, then I think you should move in the direction of specialty. But in terms of free cash flows, I think both of them enable you to generate good free cash flows. And the levers are exactly the same. I think fundamentally you need to have something unique. And you have something which your customers desire, and being close to customer, I think is very critical. I mean, it's very easy to say being close to customer, but there are, I think, almost 20, 30 elements of getting close to customer. It can be broken down into a science which you can follow through to say, are you good in every element of it? You know, starting with how do you have a process to understand future needs of a customer which are unstated? How are you going to go to, we are a B2B company, right? How are you going to go to your customer? Do you have a process to know customer well, their changing needs? I mean, I can almost, but I think everybody in this room would know the process. Actually, we don't, sorry, you go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, so I think many of these things, we don't take it to the level of fine-tuning and excellence to a point where it becomes like we are the best at it. So that is one piece. Second is there's an element of constant focus on cost. No industry you can just leave away cost, and when I say cost, one is a financial cost, there is an environment cost, there is a cost which you are having to other stakeholders. Each one of them, when you pinpoint, I think our effort should be to sort of reduce every element of cost. You have a combination of customer connect and a deep focus of being the person who is on the curve of performance at the very best. Then you add the piece which Nadir spoke about in terms of being agile. And agile, I would put it in a way which is sort of all of us need to do. This is the way to think about diversification. You can diversify either on product, which means then it goes into multiple customer segments. Suppose you have product going only into one customer segment. Suppose you are supplying into aerospace industry the materials they need, and then you figure out that when aerospace industry goes down, you are on a problem. But I think if you can supply to 3-4 industries, so there's a industry customer diversification which is needed. Second is, I don't think all geographies go down at the same time. So maybe you need geography diversification. Whatever is beneficial for you, you should have a look at it. I think all of us we'll reach different answers in different companies in different segments, but the answers are out there. And I think these are probably the questions one should be asking.
Yeah, I just want to add, I entirely agree with what Mukundan said. And I've also gone from this journey from basic chemicals to specialty chemicals. But right now, my basic chemicals are making more money than my specialty chemicals, so the specialty chemicals are not doing badly. And one reason is something he said, customer connect. Basic chemicals can become specialty chemicals if you tailor-make them for each customer. And that's the secret of specialty chemicals. So, and you have to have a connect throughout the organization. You have to speak to the customer's R&D, you have to speak to the customer's production, not to the supply chain managers. So I would like to make the point that basic chemicals can also be specialty chemicals.
Very well said. Again, coming back to understanding customers and their needs, you can really create value out of that.
As he said.
Yeah.
But you can do that in basic chemicals too, because each one needs a different need.
One more question, and then I'll open up to the audience. If you look at forward-looking, what do you think is one or two of the biggest risks the industry has? Because there's a lot of excitement, exuberance about the opportunity, China plus one, but all is not as hunky-dory as we'd like, right? So what is one of the biggest risks that you see, and any advice you'd have on it?
As we discussed yesterday, one of the risks is if we have the wherewithal to expand easily and conveniently, the opportunities are huge. Another possible risk is what if China comes roaring back? China has shot itself in the foot for the last few months, but it seems to be coming back. So that's something we should watch out for. But if we keep reducing our costs and improving our performance, and we talked about AI, that can also reduce costs and increase throughput, we'll be able to keep up with the Chinese.
So I come to the basic point that India is still work in progress. So when I say work in progress, in the sense that I think if we took, let's say, 50 years to add $1 trillion, and then we're adding, $1 trillion in shorter and shorter time span. Let's say we start adding $1 trillion in every 36 to 48 months. We heard, some of the speakers say for a factory to come up, it takes 48 months. We really have to think differently to say, are we ready for a $6-7 trillion economy? Which means everything is going to be 2-3 times what the consumption India needs, and everything is going to be in some sectors, it could be 3 to 4 times what currently is getting consumed. And that scale and ambition, I think, is going to be extremely critical. If we don't, sort of scale up rapidly ahead of the curve, I think we will be found wanting in one way. So I think for us, being ahead of the curve in terms of ability to serve customers as they scale up, because they will start shopping around for options for their products, and it will not come here. It will probably go to our competing locations, which are very energy efficient and energy cost. On the west, you have the Middle East. On the east, you have Southeast Asia. So we are somewhere stuck in the middle. So I think that is one piece. The second piece I would say is that we have to look at both sustainability as a huge opportunity for us. If you look at sugar, India today is probably, as a base material, one of the most competitive places to produce sugar, other than Brazil probably, because of sunshine, climatic conditions. We are truly blessed. So you look at exactly what Nadir said in terms of bioresources. I think we are probably the best placed in the entire world in terms of but we need to scale up every piece. For example, you take palm oil. India can probably outproduce palm oil than any other country, provided we take it on a mission mode and build an ecosystem. So we have an opportunity because we've got land, we've got adequate water. We need to use resources more carefully, and the switch to bio, I think India will play a big role. And lastly, we've got the best software engineers in the world. I mean, if we can't figure out AI, if mathematics, I mean, who can figure out? I think if you say the world is moving to data, AI-led world is switching to sustainability, and India is scaling, the trisection of this, we should say, I mean, even if we work hard, we will succeed. Even if we work hard to fail, we'll still succeed, in my view.
Very well said. Very well said. Thank you.